The galaxy's top assassin couldn't resist when he said she was beautiful. The city of Nova Prime hung like a jewel in the dark void of space. Orbital rings glimmered with neon lights, and starships of every shape and size drifted through the lanes of traffic. The hum of engines, the chatter of traders, and the occasional alarm blended into a constant symphony of movement. This was a place where anything could be bought, sold, or stolen, and where danger walked openly in the streets. In the heart of the city, on the top floor of the Celestial Tower, a grand gala was underway. Crystal walls offered a panoramic view of the city below, and music played softly through invisible speakers. Guests in elegant suits and shimmering dresses mingled, discussing technology, politics, and trade deals. Among them moved Solara Vey, a young human engineer with bright eyes and an even brighter mind. Solara's invention had drawn attention across the galaxy. She had designed a small drone capable of protecting entire starships from attacks, a marvel of engineering that could change the balance of power in interstellar travel. Tonight, she was showing it to potential investors and curious officials. But Solara wasn't there for fame or money. She wanted her invention to make a difference, to protect those who could not protect themselves. Her drone hovered silently above the crowd, its sleek metallic body reflecting the lights. Solara controlled it with a small device on her wrist, moving it gracefully between the guests. It scanned for danger, avoiding collisions, and occasionally performing small, harmless tricks to entertain onlookers. People were impressed, some leaning in to ask questions, others photographing the tiny machine. Far above, outside the tower, another pair of eyes watched the gala with far less admiration. Kale Var, the galaxy's most feared assassin, observed from the shadows of a maintenance platform. He wore a sleek black suit that blended perfectly with the night, and his movements were silent, precise, and deadly. Kale had never missed a target. He had never failed a mission. And yet tonight, he felt a flicker of something unusual. Curiosity. His mission was simple: eliminate the engineer and secure her technology for a client whose resources and motives were unknown to Solara. Kale had never hesitated before, never questioned an assignment, but something about the woman below him drew his attention in a way he had not experienced in years. Kale's eyes traced her movements carefully. She was small and unassuming in the crowd, yet she moved with a confidence that made her stand out. Every guest she passed seemed to notice her, not because of her clothes, which were simple, but because of the quiet energy she carried. Kale had spent decades studying people, reading their behavior, predicting their choices. He could recognize strength when he saw it, and Solara's presence was undeniable. He descended silently onto the balcony, landing with a whisper of movement. The gala continued inside, oblivious to the predator on the ledge. Kale's mind calculated the risks. Security was tight, but he was confident he could slip through unnoticed. What surprised him was not the danger, it was the urge that he could not explain. Stepping into the grand hall, Kale's eyes never left Solara. She was speaking to a group of investors now, demonstrating her drone's capabilities. It hovered over a table, dodging small obstacles she placed in its path. The crowd applauded, impressed, and Solara smiled genuinely, unaware of the assassin in their midst. Kale approached silently, weaving through the guests with practiced ease. He had to get closer to her to assess the risk, to ensure his mission could be completed without error. And yet, with each step, he felt something strange, a hesitation, a small voice in the back of his mind that told him this mission might be different from all the others. Finally, Kale was close enough to see the fine details of her face, the sharp clarity of her eyes, the soft curve of her smile, the way she moved her hands as she spoke. For reasons he could not explain, he leaned slightly closer and muttered under his breath, almost without thinking, "You're beautiful." The words left him before he could stop them, and for a moment the world seemed to pause. Solara froze mid-gesture, her eyes widening in surprise. She looked around, expecting someone else to have spoken, but no one seemed to notice. Her gaze finally landed on Kale. He was standing a few feet away, calm and composed, yet there was an intensity in his eyes that made her heart skip a beat. The voice had not carried any threat, only recognition. For the first time that evening, Solara felt someone truly see her, not her invention, not her status, not her appearance, but her. "Excuse me," she asked, unsure if she had heard him correctly. Kale gave a small, almost imperceptible nod. "I said you're beautiful. Not just the way you look, but the way you carry yourself. Confident, clever, you stand out in a crowd." Solara blinked. She was not used to compliments, especially not from strangers, especially not from someone who seemed dangerous. But there was no malice in his tone, only honesty. And yet deep inside, a warning bell rang faintly. There was something about him that felt familiar and unfamiliar at the same time, a predator's calm, a soldier's discipline. Kale stepped closer, keeping his distance, observing her reaction. He had never spoken to a target before. He had never paused mid-assassination to admire someone's presence. And yet, here he was, captivated by the very person he was supposed to eliminate. The gala continued around them, oblivious to the silent drama unfolding. Guests laughed, glasses clinked, and drones hovered, displaying tiny holographic projections. Solara's mind raced. Who was this man? Why did he look at her with such intensity? She felt a mix of curiosity and caution. "I thank you," she said finally, her voice steady despite the rapid beating of her heart. "That's very kind of you, but I don't know you." "I don't need to know you," Kale replied simply. "I just noticed." His words were unusual for him, stripped of any hidden meaning, strategy, or deception. For a moment he felt exposed, vulnerable even. Solara studied him. He was tall, well-built, and impeccably dressed, with dark hair and eyes that seemed to see too much. She did not understand why he had approached her in this way, and yet she felt an odd sense of trust, or at least curiosity. Before she could ask another question, a loud crash echoed from the balcony doors. Several masked intruders had attempted to enter, clearly targeting her and her invention. Panic rippled through the crowd. Solara's drone immediately sprang into action, zipping through the air to intercept the intruders. Small energy pulses disabled their weapons, forcing them to retreat temporarily. Kale moved like lightning, intercepting one of the intruders before they could harm Solara. With precise, controlled movements, he disarmed and incapacitated them silently, leaving no trace of violence that the guests could see. Solara's eyes widened as she realized the man she had just spoken to was not only nearby, but actively protecting her. You're helping me?" she asked, astonished. Kale's eyes met hers. "For now," he said simply, "but you should move. They're not finished." Together they moved through the gala, Solara controlling her drone and Kale neutralizing any threat with swift, silent efficiency. For the first time, Solara realized that she was not just witnessing human skill, she was witnessing something extraordinary. The assassin who should have been her greatest threat was now her guardian. When the intruders were finally forced to retreat, Kale and Solara stood near a window overlooking the city. The lights of Nova Prime shimmered below, and the hum of starships filled the air. Solara's heart was still racing, her mind trying to process what had just happened. "You should tell me your name," she said, her voice steady but curious. Kale hesitated. For decades he had used many names, none of them real. But for some reason he wanted her to know him, not as an assassin, not as a killer, but as a man. "Kale Var," he said quietly. Solara's eyes widened slightly at the name, though she did not know his reputation yet. "I'm Solara Vey, thank you for helping me." Kale nodded, a rare, almost human smile touching his lips. "You're welcome, but you should be careful. There are others who would stop at nothing to take what you've built." Solara looked at him, determination replacing fear. "Then I won't let them, not without a fight." Kale studied her for a moment, impressed. Humans were unpredictable, often reckless, yet capable of brilliance under pressure. She had the spark he had not seen in a long time, the spark of someone who could survive, adapt, and even thrive in a galaxy that seemed designed to destroy them. For the first time in years, Kale felt doubt about his mission. Could he truly eliminate this human when she had already shown him courage, intelligence, and a spark of something he could not ignore? He had always completed every mission flawlessly, yet now he hesitated. Not because of fear, but because of admiration, respect, and something deeper he did not yet understand. As the gala resumed and the crowd slowly calmed, Kale slipped back into the shadows, watching Selara from a distance. He would need to decide soon. Complete the mission as ordered, or protect the one human who had made him feel something he thought he had lost forever. And for the first time, Kale realized that this mission would not be like any other. The night sky above Nova Prime glittered with stars, but for Selara Vey, there was little time to admire the view. Her gala had ended, but danger had only just begun. Reports of intruders and attempted thefts of her technology had already reached her through the city's security network. Even though the masked attackers had fled, Selara knew they would return, and next time, they might not hesitate to hurt anyone in their path. She worked tirelessly in her lab atop the Celestial Tower, repairing minor damage to her drone while strengthening its defensive systems. Her hands moved skillfully, almost automatically, as her mind raced through possibilities. Who wanted her invention? And why were they willing to risk everything to get it? She didn't notice the quiet presence behind her at first. Kale Var had followed her into the building, not openly but silently, like a shadow. He observed her as she worked, noting the precision and care in her movements. Despite being a killer, he found himself fascinated by her mind. Humans like Selara were rare, intelligent, brave, and relentless even when threatened. "You shouldn't work alone tonight," Kale said finally, his voice low and calm. Selara jumped slightly, spinning around to face him. "How did you get in here?" she asked, alarmed. "Let's just say I'm invested in your safety," Kale replied, shrugging in a casual way that did not suit his usual precision. Selara studied him carefully. He was dressed in dark clothing that allowed him to move silently. She could sense the danger he represented, yet something in his tone seemed sincere. Against her better judgment, she nodded. "Then stay close. There's no telling who might show up next." The night passed with tense vigilance. Selara reinforced security protocols, monitored communications, and ensured her drones were ready for any threat. Kale remained nearby, keeping watch from hidden vantage points. Occasionally she would glance at him and catch him staring, not in a threatening way but as if he were analyzing every move she made. By early morning, exhaustion began to weigh on her. Kale noticed it and spoke softly. "You need rest. You won't think clearly if you're tired." Selara shook her head. "I can't rest, not until I know I'm safe." Kale's eyes narrowed slightly. Protecting her was becoming more complicated than he anticipated. Every instinct in his training told him to eliminate the threat, but now he found himself questioning everything. The galaxy had taught him that humans were weak, unpredictable, and emotional. Selara was proving that wrong. Before she could respond further, an alert flashed on her device. Someone was attempting to hack the tower's security systems. "Stay here," Kale said, moving instantly toward the main console. Selara grabbed her drone, activating its defensive protocols. The drone zipped through the room, scanning for intruders. Within moments, a group of mercenaries burst into the lab. They were armed with energy rifles and high-tech tools designed to disable her drones. Kale moved like lightning, intercepting the nearest attackers with silent precision. His movements were almost too fast for the eye to follow, disarming, subduing, and incapacitating without causing lasting harm. Selara's drone fought alongside him, shooting energy pulses that temporarily disabled the mercenaries' equipment. Together, they created a defense far stronger than either could have managed alone. Solara's heart pounded, not just from fear, but from awe. She was witnessing human skill and ingenuity in action. One of the intruders tried to get past Kale and reach Solara, but he blocked the path effortlessly. His presence was a shield, and for the first time, Solara realized she wasn't just relying on technology. She was relying on a human being who cared enough to risk everything. After the attackers were driven back, Kale and Solara stood in the quiet lab, catching their breath. "They'll be back," Solara said, wiping sweat from her brow. "They always come back." Kale nodded. "Then we need a plan. Hiding won't work anymore." Solara considered her options. She could attempt to flee Nova Prime, but she knew the mercenaries would pursue her across star systems. Her drone alone couldn't protect her indefinitely. She needed someone who could move, react, and adapt faster than machines. She needed Kale. "Then we leave," she said finally. "We take my tech and get somewhere safe." Kale studied her. The decision to protect her fully would mark him as a traitor to his employers, but he had already begun to question their motives. Humans like Solara reminded him of something he had lost long ago: hope. And for the first time, he felt that saving a life could mean more than completing a mission. They departed Nova Prime in her personal ship, moving quietly through the traffic lanes. Solara's drones patrolled the ship's exterior, scanning for threats, while Kale monitored every signal, every potential danger. The tension between them was quiet but palpable. During the journey, Solara tried to understand him. "Why are you helping me?" she asked cautiously. Kale paused before answering. "Because I don't want to kill you, because you're not like the others I've faced. You're smart, resourceful. You make me wonder what it means to be human." Solara blinked, surprised. Few people spoke to her in that way, acknowledging both her intelligence and her humanity. She felt an unusual connection, tempered by caution. "I don't understand. You're the galaxy's top assassin. You should be my enemy." Kale's eyes softened. "Maybe I am, maybe I was. But I've never met anyone like you." Their journey took them across multiple star systems, hiding in asteroid fields and moving through less traveled space lanes. Along the way, Kale taught Solara how to anticipate danger, how to read people, and how to think like someone who survives in a universe full of predators. She was a quick learner, and Kale began to respect her even more. Humans, he realized, were capable of adapting in ways machines could never predict. But danger was never far behind. The mercenary faction that had originally sent Kale to eliminate her was relentless. They tracked them across star systems, always one step behind but closing in steadily. One day, while resting on a remote space station, Solara noticed Kale watching the stars outside the window. "Do you ever wonder if you could live differently?" she asked softly. Kale didn't answer immediately. He had spent decades in the shadows, always moving, always killing, always alone. "Sometimes," he admitted, "but the galaxy doesn't make it easy for people like me." "You could change," Solara said, her voice steady. "You don't have to be defined by what others expect of you. You can choose who you want to be." Kale's eyes met hers, and for a moment, silence stretched between them. He had never had someone speak to him this way, not a mentor, not a friend, not an enemy. Solara's words struck something deep within him, a reminder that humans were more than their missions, more than their weaknesses, more than their fears. Their bond grew stronger with every passing day. Kale protected her from external threats, and Solara reminded him of what it meant to trust, to hope, and to care. Together, they became a team, one part human ingenuity, one part lethal skill. But the mercenaries would not wait forever. One night as they traveled through a dense asteroid belt, Kale's sensors detected an incoming ship. The vessel was fast, heavily armed, and clearly designed for a single purpose: capture or eliminate Solara. "They've found us," Kale said quietly, his tone sharp with focus. Solara's heart pounded, but she felt a strange calm. She trusted him. "Then let's make sure they regret it," she said, her hands moving quickly to activate defensive systems on her ship. The battle that followed was tense and dangerous. The mercenary ship fired energy pulses, trying to disable Solara's ship. Kale moved with precision, coordinating her drones and guiding the ship through the asteroid field. Solara's quick thinking and ingenuity kept them alive, dodging blasts and using the environment to their advantage. In the heat of the fight, Kale realized that killing the intruders was no longer about survival. It was about protecting someone he had come to respect, even admire. He disabled their weapons, disarmed their engines, and left the ship drifting, intact but defeated. As the dust settled and the stars returned to peaceful silence, Solara looked at Kale with a mix of gratitude and amazement. "We did it," she whispered. Kale allowed himself a small nod, an acknowledgement of both relief and pride. "For now," he said, "but this isn't over. They'll be back, and when they are, we'll be ready." For the first time, Kale felt something he hadn't in decades, a sense of purpose beyond the mission. Protecting Solara had shown him the value of human courage, ingenuity, and spirit. Humans could survive, adapt, and overcome even the deadliest threats, not just because of weapons or technology, but because of their hearts and minds. As they set course for another hidden location, Kale realized a difficult truth. The next decision would define both of them: continue running and hiding, or face the enemy head-on and prove that humans were not to be underestimated. And for the first time in a long time, he felt ready to fight, not just for survival but for something greater: hope, humanity, and the one person who had reminded him of both. The cold stars of the outer rim stretched endlessly before Solara and Kale's ship. They had traveled far from Nova Prime, navigating hidden routes, asteroid belts, and uncharted space. Every day brought new challenges, and every day the threat of the mercenary faction loomed like a shadow behind them. Yet, for the first time, Solara felt a spark of hope. She wasn't alone, and with Kale by her side she had a chance to survive, and perhaps even turn the tables. Kale sat in the cockpit scanning the instruments. His eyes, sharp and focused, flicked across multiple screens. Solara had grown used to seeing him like this, calm, precise, and deadly, yet increasingly protective. He had taught her how to think ahead, how to anticipate danger, and how to trust her instincts. She had learned fast, and he noticed. Humans, Kale realized, were capable of incredible growth under pressure. "This route should take us past the Delta Veil system," Kale said quietly, "a place few travel. It's dangerous, but it will hide us from most trackers." Solara nodded, adjusting the ship's controls. "Then let's hope the mercenaries aren't as clever as they think." Kale gave a small smirk. "Clever doesn't always win. Planning, adaptability, and courage, that's what wins." Their moment of calm was brief. The ship's sensors suddenly beeped loudly. Multiple contacts appeared on the radar, fast-moving and heavily armed. The mercenaries had tracked them once again. "They found us," Solara whispered, gripping the console. Kale's expression hardened. "Then it's time to stop running." He stood, his movements precise and confident. "We fight, and we fight smart." Solara's mind raced. She had built defensive systems, drones, and weapons, but facing the mercenaries head-on would be dangerous. Yet Kale's presence gave her courage. Humans, she realized, were never at their strongest when hiding. They were strongest when they took control. The mercenary fleet emerged from behind a cluster of asteroids, their engines glowing with lethal intent. Kale analyzed their formation quickly. They expect fear. They expect hesitation. We won't give them either. Solara's drones sprang into action, weaving through the enemy ships with lightning speed. Small energy pulses disabled sensors and weapons on the lead vessels. Kale maneuvered the ship with expert precision, dodging attacks while coordinating their countermeasures. Every movement was calculated, every action purposeful. Humans, he thought, were unpredictable, but in a way that machines could never replicate. One mercenary ship broke formation, aiming directly for Selara's vessel. Kale grabbed a control lever, ejecting a defensive drone in its path. The drone collided with the enemy ship, causing it to spin out of control and crash into an asteroid. Selara's heart pounded, but she smiled. Their teamwork, human ingenuity combined with Kale's skill, was unstoppable, but the mercenaries were relentless. Another wave approached, faster and more aggressive than before. Kale's mind raced. The usual approach, dodging and defense, wouldn't be enough. They needed a strategy that no one would expect. "Selara," he said, "we need to draw them into the asteroid field. They'll think they have the advantage, but we can use the terrain." Selara's eyes lit up. "We can use the drones to manipulate their paths, redirect them, disable their engines, trap them." Kale nodded. "Exactly. Let's make them underestimate human creativity." They executed the plan with precision. Selara's drones darted ahead, creating false signals and decoys. The mercenaries followed, confident in their advantage, only to find themselves ensnared in a maze of asteroids. Kale's ship weaved through the field like a predator, anticipating every movement. One by one, the enemy ships collided with rocks or were disabled by carefully timed drone attacks. From the cockpit, Selara watched in awe. Humans, she realized, could turn even the deadliest situation into an opportunity. Their minds, their courage, and their ability to adapt gave them an edge that no technology alone could match. As the final mercenary ship approached, Kale prepared for the last strike. He activated a hidden system Selara had installed, creating a powerful energy pulse that disabled the enemy vessel entirely. It drifted helplessly into space, powerless to continue the fight. For the first time in weeks, silence fell across the stars. Selara and Kale floated among the remnants of the battle, their ship unharmed, their minds racing but clear. "You did it," Selara said softly, her voice a mix of relief and admiration. "We did it." Kale allowed himself a small smile, unusual for him. "We did together." Selara turned to him, curiosity in her eyes. "Kale, why did you stay with me? Why did you protect me even when it was dangerous?" Kale hesitated. For decades, he had avoided emotional answers, avoided revealing the truth. But with Selara, he felt something different. "Because humans like you remind me why I used to care. You're brave, clever, and not afraid to fight for what's right. I've spent too long surviving without reason. You gave me a reason." Selara's eyes softened. "Then we'll keep going together. And we'll make sure no one can take what I've built, or who we are, away from us." Over the next days, they traveled to a hidden planet far from the usual trade routes. Selara worked tirelessly to upgrade her drones, improve her defensive systems, and create tools that could protect entire colonies. Kale trained her in strategies for survival, teaching her how to think like a predator without losing her humanity. Their bond deepened. Kale, the galaxy's most feared assassin, found himself smiling more, laughing occasionally and speaking openly, things he had not done in decades. Selara, in turn, grew confident in her abilities, learning to trust not only her machines but the strength and skill of the human beside her. Yet danger remained. Intelligence reports indicated the mercenary faction was regrouping, preparing for a final assault. They would not give up, and their next attack would be decisive. Selara and Kale knew that hiding was no longer an option. They had to act, strike first and show that humans were more than prey in a universe of predators. Selara's ship and drones moved into a strategic position near the mercenary base. Kale studied the layout, the number of ships, the defenses. "We need precision, creativity, and courage," he said. "Anything less and they'll destroy us." Selara nodded, her hands steady on the controls. "We have both. We can do this." The battle began with stealth. Selara's drones infiltrated the base, disabling shields, opening gates, and creating confusion among the enemy ranks. Kale moved through the shadows, taking control points with silent efficiency. Every human instinct, every strategy, and every piece of technology worked together in harmony. When the mercenary leader appeared, fully armed and confident, Kale stepped forward. He could have eliminated him instantly, as he had done countless times before, but something had changed. Humans, Kale realized, were not meant to follow orders blindly, they were meant to choose, and he chose mercy. Instead of killing the leader, Kale and Solara trapped him in a secure chamber, using a combination of drones, energy locks, and clever strategy. The faction's remaining forces, leaderless and confused, quickly surrendered. The victory was not only physical but symbolic. Humans had survived, adapted, and overcome a deadly enemy, not with brute force alone, but with intelligence, courage, and teamwork. Kale looked at Solara, understanding finally what he had been missing. Humans were not defined by weakness. They were defined by choice, heart, and the ability to rise above impossible odds. Later, standing on a cliff overlooking the planet's oceans, Kale and Solara watched the twin suns rise. The battle was over, the mercenaries defeated, and their technology safe. Solara turned to Kale, a smile spreading across her face. "We did it," she said softly. "We proved it. Humans can survive anything even when the odds are against them." Kale nodded, his dark eyes reflecting the sunlight. "Not just survive," he said. "We thrived. You reminded me that there is more to life than fear, orders, and survival. You reminded me what it means to be human." Solara reached out, placing a hand on his arm. "Then let's keep going. Together. Humans are strongest when they fight with heart, courage, and each other." Kale allowed himself a rare, genuine smile. "Together," he agreed. And for the first time in a long time, Kale felt hope, not as a mission, not as survival, but as life itself. Humans, he realized, were extraordinary not because of their weapons or their inventions, but because of their choices, their hearts, and their courage to keep moving forward, no matter the danger. The galaxy was vast and full of threats, but now they were ready. Not as predator and prey, not as assassin and engineer, but as humans who had chosen to fight, protect, and rise above every challenge together. And as they prepared for their next journey into the stars, one thing was certain: the galaxy would never underestimate humans again.